Hey there guys, happy Saturday. Before I talk about me, I have some things that I want to say about your videos, so I'm just going to do that first and get that out of the way. Fiona, last week when you were reading out your story, you mentioned that all of ours were really awesome, and thank you, because that makes me feel really good. And then you were kind of pessimistic about your own work, and I think you should not do that, because I really enjoyed listening to you, so don't be so down. Love. Caitlin and Charlotte, both of you have finals coming up this week, so best of luck to you both. I'm sure you'll do fine, but best of luck. And Charlotte, I want you to send me, and possibly the rest of us, that little intro clip that you have, because none of the rest of us have an intro clip, and yours is really awesome, so I think that should just be our intro to the channel, because it sounds good and it looks good, so if you could send us that file, that'd be really cool. And Caitlin, I mentioned that I would... Hi there, cat. Caitlin, I mentioned that I would be sitting on the floor next to my bed like you were, because that's what everybody's doing nowadays, but I realized that the space between my bed over here and the shelf that I have next to the wall right here, there's like this much room. It's not enough for me to sit in and not be zoomed in on my nose, so I can't actually do that. This is like the only place in my room, unless I sit on my bed, that I can actually film, so that's really depressing. Jess, you mentioned that you started writing because of a friend that you met on Quizilla, I believe it was. That's kind of awesome. Makes me feel good to know that I'm not the only one that started writing because of an online friend, or online purposes. And you also mentioned that you started writing because of Neville, which is really hilarious to me, because you always hear about people writing fan fiction and role-playing for, like, Lily and James, or Ron and Hermione, or Snape, or Dumbledore, or Harry, or whatever, and you never hear about Neville, which is really sad, because I always felt bad for him, because everybody hated him, so that made me feel good that you didn't ignore him. Okay, so how did I start writing? Once upon a long time ago, I was really terrible at writing, as we all were at some point in time. I remember that the first time I ever wrote something was for a little school assignment in like grade 2 or something, so I would have been like 7. And I don't even remember what the assignment was. I just remember we had to write like a little story or something, like whatever we wanted to talk about. I'm pretty sure I got a C on that, so that was not exactly the greatest start to my writing. And that's probably the reason why I didn't write unless it was for school and I was forced to, until probably, I want to say grade 7, so quite a while later. If you watch me on my main channel, you've probably heard the story of how I switched schools in grade 4 and had to meet new friends and met online friends instead, as sad as that sounds. Long story short, I had to move schools in grade 4 and I didn't have any friends, so I met 2 guys that were talking about Neopets, and I joined the site, and instead of becoming friends with those 2 guys, I ended up becoming friends with like a dozen people online in the span of a year or so, and then it just kept on accumulating. So I was on Neopets and started role-playing there, and that's, I guess, the basis of how I started my writing. A little while later, I started writing, maybe it was at the same time. Anyway, I started writing poems and short stories on DeviantArt, and that was a weird time in my life where I was writing about really depressing things even though I wasn't depressed. I don't know. I was still a happy kid, but I wrote about depressing things sometimes, and after that I went into novels because I wanted to see if I could actually write a novel. So in grade probably 9 or so, I started writing a novel. There's another cat at my door. So in grade 9 or so, I think, I started writing a novel. It was extremely depressing. The main character, his parents were killed in a car accident. He and his 2 siblings were depressed about it, but they eventually moved on. They had to move away from their old home, which was extremely depressing, and then people didn't like him for some reason, which was still depressing, and then it went on with his life, and then, like, a few years later, the end of the book was supposed to be, and I've never told anybody this, but the end of the book was supposed to be his birthday, and on his birthday, all of his friends would be celebrating his birthday at like a surprise party, but people forgot to invite him, or he forgot to go, I don't remember which. And instead, he went to this place that I called Sunset Point. Okay, I had 2 options for the end of the story, one of which was his friends were going to find him there and bring him back to the party, and everything was going to be wonderful. The other option was that he was going to jump and kill himself. By no means was I as depressed as I must sound when I explained that, so I stopped after like 4 chapters, I think, and then almost immediately got started on another novel, and that's where I am right now. I guess that's how I got into writing. Just a reminder that I'm still looking for something to do with Thursdays. Leave comments because at least I'm interested. If anybody is opposed to that, tell me as well, because I won't be offended. I just think that we need to fill in that gap. That's all for me for now, so thanks for subscribing, and Fiona, I'll see you tomorrow.